Hi, I'm back again, and I found another person
Hi.
to interview. So I'm here with Jill Seneschal, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and where she serves, and then we're going to take it from there.
All right. Well, yeah, my name is Jill, and I've known Dennis for
A long time.
13 years.
Yeah.
And I serve right now. I've been 7 years in Nice on the Côte d'Azur in France, so in the south of France.
Okay. How did you begin the journey to becoming a missionary?
It was an accident.
Really?
Yes, I was pursuing a career as an opera singer, and as I took a teaching job in between gigs, and it was horrible. I hated it.
You hated teaching?
Oh, I didn't hate teaching. I hated this teaching job.
Okay.
And so the school year ended, and about 2 weeks before, I said, you know what? I've always wanted to go on a mission trip.
Yep.
I'm just going to go on the internet, find an organization, and just go.
How long ago was this?
It was in 2001.
Oh, they had internet then.
They did. It looked different, but it was still the.
So you found this organization on the internet?
I did. It was Mission to the World. It was the Presbyterian sending agency for the PCA Church.
Yeah.
And they said, you can go to Peru or Argentina. I wanted to go to a Spanish-speaking country because I spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
And I said, Argentina.
Okay.
So 2 weeks later, I was on a plane. It was supposed to be a 2-month trip.
Yeah.
But I ended up extending, and I stayed until I ran out of money.
Oh, really? So you went to Argentina to do what?
I went to work with a school of discipleship and ministry training for young people. And so I taught classes in like peacemaking, in cross-cultural communication and things like that. So I did a lot of music while I was there. I actually hosted a radio show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is natural for you.
Well, I don't know.
Well, it's not radio, but okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get from there to being a Denton Bible missionary?
Yeah, like when I stepped foot in Argentina, like everything just kind of came into place. I don't know if you've ever had a moment in your life like that.
Oh, yeah. Many.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, this was the first for me.
Okay.
Where I just felt like this is what I was created to do.
Yeah.
And it was confirmed by the missionaries that I was serving alongside and under, and by the people I was serving.
Yeah.
And so as it was time for me to leave, the missionary family, Dan and Diane Travis, and
Greg and Greg's parents.
Yep, and Greg as well, and
wow.
Henry and Wendy Clay, who are Navigator missionaries. They said, okay, it's clear that God has put a calling on your life into vocational ministry, and but I didn't know any Christians.
Yeah.
I'd never been discipled. I didn't have a church home, and I didn't come from a believing family, and I had no training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so they said, we know this place where you can go, where you can get all of those things.
Yeah.
And it's this church in Denton called Denton Bible Church.
Have you been to Texas before?
No. Well, yes.
Oh,
I drove through Texas on a little trip to Mexico to work in the ghettos.
Because you're from Minnesota.
I'm from Minnesota.
And the weather in Minnesota and the weather here and the people there and the people here are very different.
It's like moving to another foreign country. Yeah.
Texas is a country.
Yeah, it is.
It is. At least they think so.
Yeah, and it's different.
It's
so different from Minnesota.
So you came to Denton.
I moved to Denton, sight unseen. And I was here for about 3 years.
Okay.
I went through the discipleship training program. I went through the Missionary Training Institute. And my first assignment after that was to come and serve with you in Kenya.
In Kenya. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is most people always feel like as a lady, I don't know if it's an assumption or just something that people just grow up to think, I can't go to the mission field as a single person, that most women follow their husbands into the mission field. And I know that is not true with you because you have no husband.
Yeah.
So how do you make a decision to become a full-time missionary as a single person?
Right. Well, I think it's as simple as taking the next step, just like the way I got into missions.
Yeah.
I was trying to be faithful to the Lord.
Yeah.
I can decide to become a missionary. I can't decide to find a husband.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so I made the decisions that I could make at the time. And I mean, it's true for me, it's true for all of us that I could wind up in a mediocre marriage tomorrow if that's what I wanted. But I really wanted something more, not just out of my life, but out of marriage and out of my service to God. So I just did the next thing that I knew to do, and it led me on this path. And you know, the Lord still hasn't sent me somebody. That doesn't mean I feel like I have the spiritual gift of singleness. I don't think that's a thing. But and he's taken me through seasons where I've struggled because I've wondered, you know, did the choices that I make to leave the U.S., to leave my people, kind of limit my options in having a family? But, you know, there are places in the Bible, I believe in Isaiah, it says, you know, to the eunuchs and to the widows, I will give you a family and I will give you children and I will bless you abundantly more than what you have given up for me. And I have found that to be true every step of the way. So God has given me not the gift of singleness, but the gift of contentment in him. He's the best husband I could ever have. And
well, that's well said. The gift of contentment in Jesus.
Okay,
so, well, you have been a blessing to our team. Actually, our pastor's wife, James, who is here with us, the first person that she can remember discipling her was you. And so she always talks about Jill discipling her. So there is footprints of Jill in Kenya through this very faithful woman that is serving our pastor as his wife, you know. So there is someone out there, and they're thinking, I am single, and I feel like God is calling me to missions, but I don't want to go alone. What is your advice for them?
You're smart. I think my advice is to follow that thing in your heart that's saying, I don't want to go alone. You know, I served in Kenya, and one of the reasons that I moved from Kenya to the France team is because it was so difficult for me to be there alone. And of course, I wasn't alone. I had Dennis and Allison, and they were a wonderful support to me, but I was living alone. You know, my spiritual life was also isolated, and I realized, really with Dennis's help, with the help of the office here, that I needed more of a support structure around me than Kenya could offer. And so I looked around at other teams that had other single ladies around my age that were in the field, and I discovered, you know, a couple of ladies getting ready to go to the France field to Nice, and prayed and prayed and prayed about it. I flipped coins. I did, and finally the Lord confirmed in my heart that that's where I needed to be. And I have a family in my roommate Amy, and
which we may have a chance to interview, actually.
Oh, I hope so.
So she said that she's willing to hang out with me and talk about her life as well.
Wonderful. And so it's been a wonderful thing to serve the Lord alongside a really dear friend. And I recommend that to ladies, to men. I know that in a way we have different social needs, but I think maybe that's a little overrated. I think we need to be surrounded by people who are in our hearts and in our lives and in our homes, and can support us when things get hard. So
as we kind of come to the end of this interview, you've worked in China.
Yeah, a little bit.
You've worked in Argentina.
Yes.
You've worked in Kenya, and now you are in France. So talk to us about calling. When God calls someone into missions, does he call them to a ministry or to a location or to both? And how do you reconcile that? Because I've had people say, God called me to this place, and they were very sure that that was God calling them there. And does God call someone to a specific location or to a specific ministry, and then they just find whatever place they're in and they're going to do it there?
Well, I would never put limits on God. He can certainly call anybody to anything he wants to. But I think you and I have both seen together that there are people who feel that they've received a calling from God to a location, and then they get there and it's not what they expected, and they freak out, and 2 weeks later they are on a plane back home. I think that what we are called to first and foremost is faithfulness.
Okay.
And I have had to decide several times in this journey, what are you calling me to be faithful to right now? Yeah. Is it my location? Yeah. Is it this organization? Is it this church? Yeah. Is it my calling to missions? And walk with the Lord one step at a time. Yeah. So he has never told me, Jill, I've called you for the duration of your life to live and die and give yourself to the nation of France. Yeah. And I hope that one day he gives me something new. I love a new culture, a new language, a new challenge. And so I think that what we're called to is faithfulness.
Faithfulness. Okay, that's fair enough. So there is someone watching us right now. I don't know if you're there or not, that they feel a calling into mission, or they're already in the mission field. They are single, or they are thinking of, this is too hard. I don't want to do it alone. I'm leaving. You know, and we've heard people that have done that. You know, it just becomes too hard. Has it come to a point where, Minister, you just seem so happy and together in France, and you feel like everything is just the Garden of Eden? Have there been times where you're like, I am packing my things and I'm out of here, I'm leaving? And why didn't you leave?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost.
Or did you leave?
At least weekly.
Oh, wow.
You know,
okay.
It's hard. I don't think life is hard, you know, and so I think what keeps me there is that faithfulness. Yeah. And also the longer we walk with the Lord and the longer we serve him in ministry, the more of a track record we have to see. And I think if I hadn't gone through difficult times of isolation and loneliness in Kenya, or times of difficult decisions after I left Argentina and my heart wanted to go back there, but God was calling me elsewhere, then I wouldn't know today that everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And that the trials that I'm facing right now, they're not new and they're not unique to me. Yeah. So what I would counsel somebody who's feeling that way right now to do is to find somebody who's been where you are and to ask them, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? Because I feel like I am. Yeah. and just pour out your heart to somebody and let them encourage you that it's going to be okay. And normally I find that when I am in a point of despair and wanting to quit, it's because I'm stuck in dichotomistic thinking. It's either
dichotomatic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like thinking that there's only two answers.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's either A or B, and there's always a C.
Okay.
There's always a C. And to try and pray for the creativity of God to figure out what is the way forward in this impossible situation. Yeah. Because with God, nothing is impossible.
Thank you so much. Well, Jill Seneschal, thank you for joining us today. And I'm sure that your testimony has helped somebody or a lot of people that are going to be watching. So thank you for coming, and really appreciate your work in France.
Always a joy, Denton.
All right.